Ken Trahan along with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. Well, the LSU Tigers will get an unusual and unexpected privilege and present with a home game against South Carolina in SEC play this coming Saturday. Because of the flooding and what's transpired in South Carolina, it simply wasn't doable because of the logistics. So the SEC making the move to shift the game to LSU. They'll make it happen, and obviously, Lenny, it's a tremendous advantage.
It is an advantage, and honestly, I'm surprised. I thought if this game would get moved, it might get moved to a neutral site to avoid giving someone a home field advantage. And there was some discussion about Charlotte. Jacksonville made the offer to be able to host as well. There was some talk about maybe Atlanta. But at the end of the day, you're right. This is an advantage for LSU. They don't have to get on a plane. It will be clearly, a home crowd there. I'm sure some South Carolina folks may make it down. And look, the important thing here is the community of Columbia and the surrounding areas, trying to get their feet back on the ground, so to speak, after the devastating flooding that happened there. So, those types of things we are all too familiar with here. And the stadium is fine. The immediate area around the stadium is fine. It's just it's the staffing that it takes to put on an event, as we know all too well with the major events that we've hosted in this town. The staffing to put on such an event is the stress that they don't need. They canceled classes in South Carolina the whole week. Why? Because they felt like it was difficult to try to bring 35,000 people back onto a campus this soon after that. Now you're talking about an event that would bring 85,000 people back onto a campus, and they're just not ready to handle that.
Well, there's also the issue of the selling of tickets and distribution of tickets in such a short period of time with 100,000 seats to fill. I wouldn't be surprised if there are quite a few empty seats.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you're providing a place for a game to be played. Obviously they will work through the logistics of what it is they have to do, and really turning around a game in less than 72 hours time. I want to say it's unprecedented, but it's going to be something unique for the LSU administration to be able to handle. But I have no doubt they will.
So the talk about LSU is all about the shift in games. The talk about Tulane is trying to beat an undefeated team. They're at a very tough opponent in, Temple, who's undefeated on the year. They're playing in the morning, which isn't easy, and obviously it's a big step up in class for Tulane as they have to play 4 consecutive opponents who haven't lost a game at this point.
Yeah, who would have thought that we'd have 20 undefeated teams left in college football at this point, right? The River LSU is one of those 20. There's 4 of them in the American Athletic Conference right now, and lo and behold, Tulane's got to play them this week, next week, and the following 2 weeks after that. So it's definitely a test for them. If you look at the 4 games as a whole, this may be Tulane's best chance to get one of these games. They match up pretty well with Temple in terms of just how the game is going to be played. When you start talking about like Houston and Memphis, you got some really explosive offenses there. Navy runs a triple option, and that always causes problems. But this game last year was a 10-3 game. I don't expect it to be that kind of game again this year, but Tulane wants to try to keep it close until the fourth quarter. That formula they used last week with turnovers and sacks, they can do some of that again on Saturday. They've got a chance.
No question about it. And, of course, the Saints making changes this week as well. Thomas Morstead banged up. They've had to bring in a new punter, perhaps to punt on Sunday. And, of course, Zach Hocker. They're taking a look at people, but it looks like he'll kick, and he'll have to kick off in all likelihood. And then Joe Morgan released, Kenny Phillips released, and they've brought in a new offensive lineman too.
Little shuffling, nothing major. I think Kenny Phillips became expendable once Bird got back on the field on Sunday. Morgan, you never know when he could be one of those guys. You remember the old Yankees and the Columbus shuttle, that kind of thing. Morgan could be one of those guys who's on and off the roster all year long. The Brandon Fields signing, we'll have to see. Morstead could be a game time decision really in terms of whether he could punt. And he's been. He's a huge weapon in that not only is he a terrific punter, but he's a great kickoff guy. And you mentioned it, Hocker, or if it's not Hocker, someone else may have to kick off in his stead. Even if he is healthy, if you want to kind of temper his reps, so to speak, if he is set to go, then maybe he doesn't kick off.
Yeah, it's a desperation game. Whoever wins this game is relevant at Philadelphia. Whoever loses this game is likely not relevant the rest of the year. That's how important it is. High school football, it's a busy weekend. We got the original Friday night on WGSO 990 AM locally and around the state, and, of course, through sportsnola.com with the best scoreboard in the state where everyone comes all tied in. In addition to that, we get things started on Thursday night. We've got a radio game on WGSO at 6:30 with East Jefferson and Higgins at Hoss-Memphis Stadium, Higgins homecoming. And we have a big game between the number 2 ranked McDonough 35 Ron Eagles taking on the Belle Chase Cardinals, which you can watch live at sportsnola.com.
Right. Thursday night at 7, you can watch that one. And stay right where you are. Friday night at 7, we will have live the Battle of Covington. Covington and St. Paul's as part of the first NBC Bank Prep Showcase. Miss it there, you can watch it Saturday at noon on WHNO TV 20.
And then Saturday at 2:30, you can listen to Shaw and St. Augustine from Tad Gormley Stadium, homecoming for St. Augustine as well. And that will be another one. So a whole bunch of great high school football coming up this week. And you can check out everything at sportsnola.com pertaining to what's happened and what's going to happen and who's going to do what and how they're going to do it and everything else. That's what we do.
It's what we do. We got all the answers. Probably throw a few questions out there for you to ponder as well.
And I know you'll enjoy the piece on Dale Weiner and Catholic High that we have on the site this morning as well. One of the class acts in the business, and he's in elite company now with 300 wins. Congratulations to Coach Dale Weiner. Lenny, as always, a pleasure. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
We'll see you Monday.
That's our First NBC Bank weekend preview brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout Louisiana, now into Florida, and growing. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. He's Lenny. I'm Kenny. Have a great weekend, and God bless you.